If someone asked me what is the best anime shonen running right now, Jujutsu Kaisen is the obvious answer. I've already reviewed Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1 and the Jujutsu Kaisen movie, so if you do not know anything about this series and you're coming into this blind, I highly recommend you don't, and go check out those reviews first, maybe watch the series first, or at least watch the first season, because I'm going to be starting from a point of understanding who Yuji Itadori, Megumi Fushiguro, Nobara Kugasaki, and Satoru Gojo are. This is actually one of the most intriguing seasons of anime I've seen in a very long time, and I know I'm pretty late to the game in talking about it, waiting for the entire season to end first before discussing it, but it was really necessary, I think, to see the full breadth of what they were going to do in this series, because every single week something they did surprised me. Now, if you see my previous reviews, you know that I already really enjoyed this series, and with each adaptation that I saw from JJK Season 1 to the JJK movie, I have grown more and more in love with this series, finding more and more things that I think stick out compared to other anime, things that I think are really interesting in the way that Gege Akutami tells his story. I have repeatedly, consistently praised MAPPA's adaptation, helmed by Song-Kyu Park, as one of the best anime running right now, especially when you look at the animation side of things and the visionary directorial style that goes into Season 1 and the movie. There is something extraordinary and exceptional in how Park is able to handle framing and pacing in those scenes, and he is an exceptional director in everything that he does, but he didn't come back for this season. For a number of reasons, I think, but one of the main ones is that he actually directed Monsters, an adaptation of an Ichiro Oda short story that came out before One Piece. But the person who replaced him, Shota Goshozono, did an incredible job, not only at adapting this work, but adding to this work, storyboarding, directing, and key animating a lot of sequences in this season. But I do want to pull back for a moment and talk about what this season was even about. Now, the first third of the season follows a flashback arc between Gojo and Geto. Gojo, of course, being everyone's favorite white-haired, all-powerful fuckboy, and Geto, his more serious but also incredibly powerful friend. And this first arc, the Hidden Inventory arc, gives us a really good insight into both characters, into understanding how we got to the place where we are that happens in the second half of this season. And this first arc is really just a nice breath of fresh air. Now, you don't get the main characters that we love so much, like Yuji Itadori, but we do get to see Gojo and Geto go on their own adventures and see what they were like before they became the masters that they are now. You get to understand the backstory and motivations of some of our principal characters while also getting a more fun, lighthearted adventure for the most part. Now, this is still JJK, so lighthearted and fun never last long in this series, but those light moments, the humor that Gege could bring to his stories, and that MAPPA is able to seamlessly elevate and add on to, it just feels like a really natural cooperation between the series creator and the animation studio adapting their work. But once this arc ends and you begin the Shibuya arc, the big centerpiece for this entire season, and one of the centerpieces for this anime, one of the best arcs in Shonen in so many years, it is non-stop. It's an arc that not only manages to have some of the most interesting, engaging fight scenes back to back to back, that MAPPA tirelessly put their blood, sweat, and tears literally into every single scene, but it also has escalations of that conflict, twists and turns you don't see coming, things that build and build and build on the excitement that keeps going on throughout this arc. It is an arc that has been built up to from episode 5 of season 1. This series has always had one big question, one big problem with its entire ability to threaten the main characters, which is one character, Satoru Gojo. This is going to be a minor spoiler for season 2, so if you want to hear me talk more just about the animation and what I think is great about the directing, you can skip forward a little bit here, but I want to get over this one specific piece of tension. The entire first part of the series, season 1 and the movie, all have this underlying theme of tension, of course, with the characters because Gojo isn't around or Gojo's busy doing something else, but if there's any kind of world-threatening moment, they always know that Gojo is there, because Gojo is the most powerful sorcerer in the entire world, and it has been shown in a number of different ways how powerful he is, how effortlessly he can take down anyone he's against. And it's shown again in this season, where you have Hanami, a big villain in season 1, going up against Gojo, and Gojo just stares them down until they explode. He is able to annihilate people in ways that no one else can. His power level and his control over his cursed energy is absurd, and it is a constant threat to everyone else in this series, and holds back the villains from being able to do anything really against the main characters, not able to enact their plans at all. And so once that question, how do they take care of Satoru Gojo, is answered by sealing him away, then literally all hell breaks loose. Literally hell breaks loose. I talked a little bit in one of my most recent videos in Goblin Slayer how cowardly that show is, right? Because that show is something that started off with the promise of gory, ridiculous, terrible action. I mean, some of it's really just gross and disgusting, but it started off with a promise of characters not being secure in their lives, not being protected by the fact that they are a main character. And it completely squanders that, as after episode 1, no character is ever really in any real danger, and absolutely never killed. JJK is the exact opposite, and it had death and gory moments in the first season to be sure, but season 2 takes it to another notch, letting you know that characters are not safe just because you like them. They are not safe just because they are some of the most interesting characters that the show has. It doesn't really matter. And once Gojo is gone, every single character, up to and including Yuji himself, is not safe. You don't know what the next development is going to be. You don't know who is going to be next on Gege's chopping block. And while that can be incredibly frustrating because he is so good at developing these characters and giving them something to grab onto, to understand and relate to, it is also immensely compelling. It's what truly gives this anime a leg up on other shonen anime, where it is willing to take that step. It is willing to do what to most other series is unthinkable, which is just kill people. You can tell with Gege's writing that they want to dissect and understand their characters, and one of the problems, I think one of the big downsides that comes more and more up, is that the world of JJK is really well thought out. I think that it is incredibly well laid out in how powers work and why they work the way that they do, why cursed energy and cursed techniques, how they exist in this world. And one of the problems I have when reading the manga is that there is a lot of words in the description of how these powers work and how they function. And that could be a little hard to understand in the manga. It would take a few times to go through, read through it, and understand what exactly they were saying. But when you get to the anime, it is able to seamlessly build on Gege's ideas and explain while also showing you how these abilities work. And I think that the world and the mechanics of these powers is something that I cannot get enough of. I really think that Gege's thought process into these powers adds so much. While we're talking about Gege, I do just really want to shout out their character writing, because there's a lot of really good writers in Shonen, and there's some from the popular Shonen ones. There's like from Demon Slayer and My Hero Academia. They can have kind of shallow characters, while you have other series that are a little more deep, like Chainsaw Man. But in this series, Gege is able to show so much strength in how they can write compelling characters. Any kind of character. If you're a fan of Shonen, you know that most female characters in Shonen are not written very well unless the series is itself created by a woman. Most other shonen series, be it Dragon Ball Z or Naruto, really struggle on creating women that have their own sense of self, characterization, and personality, right? And Nobara Kugisaki alone shows how creative Gege is in creating a character that is both sassy, witty, stupid, foul-mouthed, but also just incredibly lovable the entire way through. Or in a character like Maki, creating a character who is weak and powerless, a character who cannot see cursed spirits on their own, able to fight so well because she has the strength and determination to keep moving forward. Gege allows his female characters to be flawed, and in that way make them more interesting, to have their own personality and background and ways that they actualize themselves into the story that is separate from the main characters, from their male characters. There doesn't need to be any romance to make the relationship between Itadori and Kugisaki feel like one of the most natural, ridiculous friendships in the entire series. They're both idiotic goofballs that have just the right flavor of personality that makes it all come together. And I also want to shout out, on top of that, Gege is also able to appeal to the female gaze perfectly, and MAPPA absolutely plays into this constantly. You have Gojo, a character who is so beloved by so many female anime fans and male anime fans. Let's be real. Gojo is a handsome man, and MAPPA takes every chance they get to really show off his beauty. And let's not pretend, especially if you've seen season 2, let's not pretend that MAPPA didn't build on top of that a little bit with Choso and of course add so much with Nanami. There is so much here for female anime fans, like actual female characters that are well written and well thought out, while also having male characters, adult male anime characters that just give you a little spice, give you something that you want, give you something to think about, you know? Because all too often, there's just not that much for female anime fans to grab onto as in terms of fan service. But I think Jujutsu Kaisen as a series in total, both in Gege's manga and especially in the anime, because MAPPA absolutely adds on top of this. It is an anime that keeps in mind its female viewers, and I think it's not a coincidence that it has such a large female fan base. This doesn't need to be a whole thing. I just think that it's nice that since we get so much fan service in anime geared towards men and young men, that it's great that the ladies can get something for themselves because goddamn, they know what they're doing. They know what they were doing throughout all of these scenes, and you know what? I respect the game, MAPPA. I respect it. MAPPA is a studio that clearly loves this series, that clearly puts as much effort and time that they can into JJK. It's incredibly clear as compared to any other series that they do. They did great work with Chainsaw Man. They did some pretty good work with Attack on Titan. They have done so many other series that they have put their whole ass into. Very clearly, they're doing some really solid work all across the board. But with JJK, it's different. It's another level of dedication. And that dedication has led to something that I have mentioned in a few videos already, but they really put their animators through hell. And the results of those animators' work is beautiful, but also bittersweet in that way. And that the biggest drawback of season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen is nothing in the series itself. It's not in the plot, it's not in the characters, it's not even in the animation as it's appearing on screen, because that all is beautiful. The real problem is behind the scenes and the exploitative nature of the anime industry and how vocal these animators have been about how they are being mistreated, which I think is one of the most important things to keep in mind. I don't know if it's just because that Jujutsu Kaisen is so big that they know that they will be able to get their names out, be able to get the word out better, or if this is something that is that much worse than any other season of anime. But it is concerning to say the least. MAPPA already had a poor reputation before this season as a pretty poor place to work, as a place that was pretty exploitative. And I just did a video, my last video is on Zom 100, about how exploitative and hard production companies and animation studios can be on people. And MAPPA right now, unfortunately, takes the cake on being one of the worst out there. It is something you have to keep in mind through every single episode of this series. For every amazing moment, for all the Sakuga we are blessed with through this show, there were people who had to lose their mind in a way to make it. So right now, really the best I can recommend is when you see Jujutsu Kaisen animators talking about their struggles on Twitter, support them. Tell them that you appreciate what they do. I'm sure that at least in some small way can help, even if it's not any kind of solution to the problem. To wrap up this review, I do just want to say that there are so many things to love about this series and about this season of anime. The Shibuya arc from the manga was already one of the most highly touted shonen anime arcs in modern times, and this adaptation will only add to that. The last thought I want to leave is that Jujutsu Kaisen is one of the best shonen out there right now. If you're a shonen fan of any kind, you are doing yourself a disservice by not seriously giving this show a chance, because I guarantee you will not regret it. It is a series that simultaneously deserves so much praise, while also needing so many ways to hold back on that praise, or to remind everyone that there is still structural problems with how the studio adapting this functions. And while that is very difficult and hard to say, it's something that always needs to be coming up in a conversation about Jujutsu Kaisen. So again, highly recommend this series. I recommend you watch it, but while you're watching it, know how this season was made and be sure that you're appreciating the animators that put their whole soul into this show, because I can't thank them enough for some of the best TV of 2023. Thank you for watching this video all the way through. I really appreciate you sticking around and just hearing all my thoughts about season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen. It's a little messy because there's so much I want to talk about, but yeah, I thank you a lot, and be sure to follow for more videos similar to this. Like, comment, subscribe, tell me what you think about the season yourself, and I hope you have a great day, a great night, or whatever it is you're having, and stay rad.